Hello, fellow griever. You have found the Leftover Pieces Suicide Loss Conversations podcast, and I am Melissa, your host. I am with you on this journey because my 21-year-old son, Alex, died by suicide on August 7th of 2016. Since launching this podcast in late 2020, I have followed my heart and expanded the Leftover Pieces to include books and an online community where I host Zoom support groups every week. It is there, in this community, that I lead other parents who have lost a child by suicide from survival toward hope and into healing. The website is also a resource hub, a connecting point for all survivors of suicide loss. You can find me, ways to connect with me, and links to everything that I'm doing in the community on my website, theleftoverpieces.com. Know that I'm always open to suggestions and feedback. And if you know someone that I should connect with to be on the podcast, please let me know that as well. So now, I invite you to join me for real conversations, candid talk on hard topics surrounding the loss of our loved ones by suicide. I talk to other loss survivors, mental health experts, advocates, and on alternate weeks, I offer shorter, solo episodes where I go down the rabbit hole to discuss things that have been on my mind or possibly parts of my journey that I feel would be beneficial to share. Every week, we explore the questions that haunt us, seek the courage to uncover the healing tools within us, and offer the comfort of a community that we all need so very much. It's true that our hearts and lives have been shattered, but come along with me, and together, let's choose to find meaning and even happiness amid the leftover pieces before us. Welcome. Hello, Griever, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 41 of the Leftover Pieces Suicide Loss Conversations podcast, and I'm Melissa, your host. Today, I'm bringing to you the greatly anticipated, feels like forever promised, much looked forward to friend-to-friend roundtable episode. And I'm going to tell you, it was worth the wait. I'm so glad we were able to finally get this scheduled and that it's worked out to get this put out into the world. Because after the loss of a loved one, at least publicly, there's so much attention centered on the immediate family, and friends often seem to kind of go to the wayside, and for the most part definitely might feel like they're more unseen in their grief, that they have more outlets. And I think it's really important to give them a voice, because this loss was not small or inconsequential in their lives. It's relevant and important to hear what they have to say. And today I talk with three amazing humans who all lost their dear friend to suicide. A fourth friend who couldn't join is represented by submitting answers to the talking points that I read and intermingle these answers in between the other answers of the three that are with me in the conversation. We're going to hear from Christian Murillo of Kansas City, Missouri, now from Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're going to hear from Oakley Mengel of Elkford, British Columbia, formerly of Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. We're going to hear from Branislav Tadic of North Kansas City, and Brock Lorenzen, also of North Kansas City, now Santa Fe, New Mexico, also gave his answers, and I will be reading them. Branislav, Christian, and Brock all lost their friend Alex, my son, Alex. And Oakley lost her dear best friend, Donovan, to suicide. Today, some of the things that we speak to are how the loss has affected their life, both at the time of loss and now, each of these friends being at different places in their journey. We talk about things like, do they ever receive signs from spirit? We talk about if they were treated differently because they were, quote, just a friend, unquote. And we also talk about things like, encouraging points that they give to people who are surviving and thriving after the loss of their friend to suicide. This is a journey through their eyes and hearts that we get to be very privileged to peek into the grief of a friend. This conversation was nothing short of a gift to me, you guys, and it's my honor to bring it to you now. So let's dive on in. Welcome, guys. Welcome to this much anticipated episode. It is my sincere honor to have the three of you here, and we have a fourth one with us in spirit, not in spirit in the same way that our loved ones are, but he couldn't be here tonight. He got called away for work at a new job, but I do have his answers. So that is Brock, and I will be reading Brock Lorenzen's answers for him tonight. And he will be with us. He's in our heart tonight, and we're glad that he contributed with the answers that he gave us. And we will start with the three of you guys. Just briefly introducing yourself, if you would. Branislav, let's start with you.
Okay, my name's Branislav. I was a friend of Alex's. We went to the same high school together, in the same graduating class. I live in Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm 28 years old.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Christian, would you introduce yourself?
My name is Christian Murillo. I am also in Kansas City, Missouri. I knew Alex going back, I think, 7th grade, and then high school, and then we kept talking still in college through the end there.
Yeah.
But I'm about to be moving to Fort Wayne, Indiana here at the end of this month for a new job here.
Okay, well, Fort Wayne. Exciting. We'll see, right? I hope it's a great job. So, Oakley, welcome. Would you introduce yourself?
My name is Oakley Mengel. I live in Elkford, British Columbia, but I went to school in Saskatchewan with my friend Donovan. I've known him since grade 1, and we grew up together until we went to the same high school together as well. So just recently moved to Elkford, been here over a year now. It's very pretty. So
okay. Awesome. Well, I'm going to let you guys just give us a brief description of what the lost story is to you of your friend. And I know we talked a little bit about that. So I'm going to let Christian, you go first, and we'll just go from there if you don't mind sharing your lost story with us.
Okay. So I'm going to start off by saying that me and Alex were always really good friends, but there's 3 or 4 guys that I know were like best friends with Alex. So like I wasn't like glued to the hip with Alex, but me and him, whenever we'd get together, we'd get separated, whether it be chemistry class or whether it be extracurriculars, and we would always invite each other to parties, and we hung out, and we were just very good friends. I had taken a job out in Egg Harbor, Wisconsin, which is an hour north of Green Bay, when my friend Carlin, who was at Truman State University with Alex, gave me a call and had let me know what had happened. And I was an audio engineer out there. Luckily, that was the day we didn't have any concerts, but I took 5 minutes. Time kind of just stopped after I got off the phone with Carlin and just couldn't really perceive what she had, like logically I understood the words that she had told me, and I knew she was serious, and I knew it wasn't, like I knew it was real, but like my body rejected it. And then I just had to go to my boss and be like, hey, I don't think I should be around it was a music school. I was just like, I think it'd be best for me to just kind of not be around the students today, and went and read a book. Like I didn't know what to do. And so I was just like, I need to just take a few minutes and just distract myself. I went and read in like a prairie situation that was on our campus. And over the next couple days, it like did sink in, but I had a job to do. So I was more focused on just, hey, you're out here for a reason, finish your job. And unfortunately, I had to miss the funeral for Alex, which I took really hard, um, because I wanted to be around the community that Alex had built, and it was really upsetting for me that I wasn't able to be there for the actual ceremony. But luckily, in the years past, we've reunited at Alex's grave a couple times. That core friend group that still we were doing that for a while, but that kind of helped me get a little bit of closure on missing that situation. I had also changed my fraternity in college's philanthropy to a men's suicide awareness organization with the American Suicide Prevention Association. And we did a walk for hope on our campus. I think we got about 1,300 people out for it. But it was just a walk across campus. Like, we had help from other organizations on campus. But it's just, I realized men don't get to talk about their feelings or be vulnerable, or like when they do need help, when they ask for it, I feel like they aren't taken seriously. And so, like, when I presented this idea to bring suicide awareness to the fraternity, I was scared. I thought they were all gonna laugh at me and or be like, call me weak, or yo, we didn't know this kid. Like, why are we doing this? But literally, everybody in a fraternity, all male group, like all of them, I could see that they had struggled with mental health at some capacity in their life, and they all welcomed that philanthropy with open arms. And I just never wanted someone to feel like they didn't have someone. Like, and so I've scaled down from like public awareness like that, and now I just kind of focus on, hey, who on my friends that I'm actually like truly care about, and like for the capacity that I have, like I try and check in on people and make them have deep conversations. Like, I can see around the fluff. And so if I see a friend is, yo, are you down in the dumps? I'll drive 4 hours and go hang out with you and just give you that little bit of, you're not alone. But it's made me appreciate my friendships a lot more. And on a deeper level, I think I've been able to connect with people a lot more because I'm more open since then. And that's allowed people to be more open with me. And just being able to have friends and truly communicate your feelings to get through hard times, that has been a really big takeaway since everything had happened for me. But I'll end it right there.
Okay. Thanks so much, Christian. Oakley, would you like to tell us your last story?
For sure. So I grew up in a town called Moose Jaw in Saskatchewan, Canada, and I went to school starting grade 1 at King George, which is where I met my best friend Donovan. From there, we always ended up in the same classes together. Out of all of those years, grade 1 to grade 8 is what my school went to. We were always in the same classes except 1 year. So we got a lot of time together, and we always were like glued to the hip in a lot of ways. And we just grew up together in a lot of aspects and would share interests with each other, especially music. He loved music so much, and he made me become more accustomed to loving music. And then even into high school, we would talk about all the things that we liked. Then when we were all stuck at home, we would just play video games together and stuff like that. So when he just turned 16 and I was 15, we were in grade 11, I found out that he had killed himself, which I found out was a very long process because I had no way to contact anybody since he had moved to Manitoba. And I had a bunch of mutual friends say to me that they haven't heard from Donovan in a while, and they were wondering if I had. So I didn't see it as anything out of the blue because he went on very long social media detoxes, so I didn't think anything was wrong until I started looking into his profiles more and seeing some memorial things posted on some of his profiles. So I told my mom what I had saw, and she managed to get in contact with his mom, Barb. And from there, she had told my mom what happened. And then I found out 2 days after he died, and I didn't think it was real. I was in a really strong sense of denial for a really long time, and I had to be the person to tell all of our friends about it because nobody else could. So one by one, I had to tell all of our friends, hey, I'm so sorry, but I have to tell you this. I had to call a few friends. Some of them had to leave class, and then I just spent a while on the phone with them. Some of them didn't believe it. And from there, me and a few of his friends tried a lot of different ways to keep his memory alive and really explore on how to honor him. I know I designed a tattoo for his mom that he was supposed to get, which is one way that I have helped keep his memory alive, I'd say. And then ever since then, I've just become more aware of people's emotions and try to make sure that everybody knows that they're loved, because I feel like a lot of people don't, and some people are afraid to tell their friends that they love them, but I don't see that as a bad thing. So, and then in the more recent years, even though it's almost been 2 years, but just this year, I raised quite a bit of money with my art based on the 5 stages of grief. I did an art collection and put it in auction, and I ended up raising $500 and something for the hospital that he stayed at when he had attempted suicide the first time. And then his mom matched my donation, so we were able to make it over 1,000. So I would say it's still not fully hit me, which is strange, but I guess I just have processed it very slowly. So yeah, I guess I'll just kind of end it there for now. But yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good, thanks for starting there, Oakley. I appreciate it a lot. Branislav, will you go ahead and tell us who Alex was to you in your lost story?
Yeah, so I met Alex freshman year of high school through a mutual friend, Brittany. They were in freshman choir together, and Brittany and I rode to school together, and we would hang out in the cafeteria, and she was telling me about this hot freshman choir boy. That's all she would refer to him was, there's hot freshman choir boy, hot freshman choir boy. And I was like, okay, if you're going to keep talking about him, I got to meet him. So she finally invited him to breakfast one morning, and that's how I met him. And from there, I actually did choir in middle school, but kind of grew out of it. And I was like, I don't want to do it anymore in high school. I'm over it. The teacher really ruined it for me in middle school. So meeting Alex, I was talking to him about choir and his love for music, and just hearing the two of their stories from their freshman choir class, it like grew a spark in me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for choir next year. And Alex is the reason sophomore year I joined men's choir. And then junior year and senior year, I did a cappella and harmoniers. And that was the only class Alex and I had together, but we would hang out outside of school, outside of choir. And I remember it was that summer right before he passed away that him and I were talking, and he was getting ready to go back to school. And I was telling him how I wasn't going back to school just for certain reasons, mainly financial. But he was like, okay, when I come back for Christmas break, we're going to hang out and touch base again. And so that was something I was looking forward to, because I got really bummed out that I wasn't going back to school. It was a hard choice for me to make, but I had to. And I remember waking up, I think it was the day after he had passed away. Brittany, actually, the one I met him through, texted me saying, Alex is gone. And I just replied, where'd he go? And she's, no, he's passed away. And I remember my phone just falling out of my hands onto my bed. Like I couldn't believe it. So after a couple minutes, I got onto social media to see if there was anything. And I was like, no, Brittany, I don't think that's right. And she's, no, I heard it from several people. And so then I reached out to some of our other mutual friends, and they're like, yeah, it's true. And just like Christian said, it took me a couple of days for it to hit me. I didn't want to believe it. We had just talked. He didn't say he was struggling in any way. Kind of like Christian said, guys don't really open up about their feelings. We're supposed to be strong and we don't have them. So it was just very shocking to me. And not seeing him for a while, it was hard. I didn't see any signs, especially over text. Tone is conveyed differently. So for like a few days, I was like, I wish I would have known. I wish I could have done something. That weighed on me heavy a lot after his passing. And I remember so much that I didn't want to believe it happened, that I was driving up to St. Joe for work the day of his memorial service. And I told my coworkers, I was like, I have my really good friend's memorial service today. If I'm feeling up to it, I'll go. I said, but I don't want to believe it's true, so I don't know that I will go. I said, I'm not ready to say goodbye to him yet. And while I was at work, they kept saying, you need to go. You need to go. This is the closure that you need. You need to go. And I remember getting in my car, cried the whole way from St. Joe down to the memorial service in Pleasant Valley, because I think it was finally hitting me. And when I got to the church, I would just remember seeing all of our friends, and we just hugged and just cried. And that was the first time I really cried about it. It's a day I vividly remember. And then I went back to work, and I just kept telling my friends, thank you for making me go. It's what I needed. And then I actually got a semicolon tattoo, and it's partly dedicated to Alex. And every time I look at it, I think of him and his memories I have with him. And I'm just reminded, open up about your feelings. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to struggle. Just talk about it. So I often will reach out to people I haven't talked to in over a year and just be like, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? And I think, looking back, I'm just glad I went to the memorial service. And like Christian said, there will be times where I'm having a rough week or rough month, and I'll just go to his grave and sit and just talk to him. And I feel like there's a presence there when I'm there, and that he's talking back to me. I don't hear his voice or anything, but it's just, I know he's listening to me, and I know he's telling me, you'll get through this. This isn't the end. It's a rough patch. It's not a rough life. So, and then I actually still have his obituary, and I carry it in my car all the time. And anytime I hear I Can Go the Distance, it took me probably 6 years to get through that song without crying, because I knew that was one of his favorite songs. So anytime I think of anything Disney, really, or any of the songs we sang together in Harmonaires, I just think of him immediately, and then all the other memories with Harmonaires comes. But so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
He listened to Disney music to go to sleep, I think even at 21 years old. So
there's nothing wrong with that. I'll blare Disney in my car rides to work now.
There's nothing wrong. I 100% agree with that. I 100%. But that song still gets me, that song. And for whatever reason, he was listening to Israel Kamakavivo Lay's Somewhere Over the Rainbow a ton when he was home that 5 weeks. Unpopular with me, but when we went to Montana for vacation during that 5 weeks he was home, went Parker and Alex and Harper and GR, and I went. Lauren had a baby and was home and didn't come with us, but we had a hot tub at the condo that we stayed at in Montana, in my brother's town, and he would set his computer on the ledge of the hot tub, which I kept envisioning landing in the hot tub as a mom. But he would say, Mom, it's fine. And he would leave it there so he could play his music. And 9 times out of 10, and he would get a beer. I mean, this is Alex's personality, but when we first got to the condo and he saw the hot tub on the back deck, which you could see the mountains out, we were on a golf course, so you could just see the mountain range across the golf course. And he just immediately went out there and said, there's a hot tub. I'm going to be in that hot tub all the time, Mom. Oh, he got excited about things like he was a child. Even at 21, he did that. And I'm like, okay, Alex, I'm not kidding you. He was in that hot tub every time we were back at the condo with his laptop playing music. And for some reason, that song was what he was playing an awful lot. So between I Can Go the Distance and Somewhere Over the Rainbow, I mean, there's other songs, but those are the two that are still hard. I made myself watch Hercules all the way through with my grandkids for the first time since he had passed this last year. That was harder than I thought. This is a cartoon, but yeah, he just loved that stuff so much. So thank you. So I want to kind of step into the place where we're going to talk about kind of the talking points that I sent you guys, because there's specifically a couple of things that I think, first, other friends listening that have lost their friend by suicide will take a lot from. But I also think that the people that support friends, moms, need to hear, other friends, siblings need to hear. I think that it's just really important that we talk about a couple of things, especially for people that are early. But believe it or not, as you guys have talked about, and I've experienced with my own kids, because siblings often kind of compartmentalize and defer their grief a little bit too, because that's what you're talking about, especially Oakley, you're talking about you've deferred your grief a little bit. You've kind of compartmentalized it and said, okay, I'll take this as I can, right? And so it's really, I've learned that it's really common for siblings to not really dig in until even 5-10 years down the road sometimes, because they spend so much time kind of worrying about mom and dad and the things like that. And for some reason, they feel like it just gets pushed off. That's not the intention. That's just the way it happens, I think. And it's also just a different way of, somebody recently said, and I'm sure I'm going to mess this up, but when a child loses their parent, we lose our past. When a parent loses their child, they lose their future and their past. But when a friend or sibling loses their friend or sibling, that they oftentimes lose their past, present, and future. And I think a lot of friends, especially childhood friends that you went to school with all the way through, you expect to be at each other's weddings, you expect to be at each other's retirement parties, and there when you have kids. And even if you go all year without talking, you're going to touch base when everybody's back in town for something, or someone does get married, or things like that happen. And you just think those friends are always going to be there, right? And so it is really unexpected, but it's really, powerful to talk about the effect that it has on us. So I think I'm going to start this part by reading Brock's answer, since Brock couldn't be with us. And I talked a little bit about Brock in the introduction that everybody heard. But Brock and Alex were friends probably about the same amount of time you and Alex were, Christian.
When he came to North.
Yep. Because that was when we moved to the school district that we were in. And so you and Brock would have known Alex the same amount of time, and ran in kind of different groups, which that's an Alex thing too. He had friends everywhere, and he loved all of you guys so much. Like, Alex would have been hard pressed to say, this is my best friend, because he just had so many friends that he loved so much. He would say best friends and mean freaking everybody, I think. So that was just an Alex thing. I'm going to start by reading Brock's answer to, I asked him how he felt initially after the loss versus how he feels now. What he said was, initially, the shock is hard to handle. There's a lot of denial. It's like the world stops. I remember feeling guilty at first, because when I was told what happened, my initial gut reaction was wishing internally for it please to be someone else of the same name that had died. Anyone but my dear close friend Alex. In the first few days following the loss, I experienced confusing emotions. A prevalent feeling was confusion at how the world and the rest of the people around me just carried on. People that had nothing to do with the loss and didn't even know my friend Alex, who had died, is what I mean by that. The foundation of my world had been rocked. I was now living in a different world and reality than I had just been a few days before. But to all of the random people around me and all of the people who did not know Alex, life just kept going on the same as it always had. This led to significant feelings of separation and isolation from most people around me. And then you're expected to go to work and get groceries and continue to function in society and do all of the normal everyday things a person must, like nothing had happened. That was very difficult and required burying the hurt and pain I was feeling deep down in a way so that I could function in my own life and take care of responsibilities that don't go away no matter how much distress I was in. The other predominant feeling I experienced initially was anger at everyday people that were random around me. I was lifeguarding at the time, and I specifically remember thinking, who do these people laughing and playing and having fun at the pool think they are? Don't they know Alex just died? How could they possibly have the nerve to just be going on about their business and enjoying themselves? At the time, and even in the moment, I recognized these emotions and sentiment I felt were completely irrational. The folks at the pool had no idea that anything had happened or anyone had died. But even recognizing this did little to ease those feelings of anger. In retrospect, I think this was rooted in jealousy. I was jealous because at the time I found myself nearly incapable of feeling joy, and therefore became angry and jealous of people I saw experiencing happiness. Now I'm still very saddened by the loss of Alex and missing out on the memories and good times that we would get to have a chance to make. However, I think that having reached the acceptance point of grief allows for more of a focus on the good times that we were able to have. I'm now capable of looking back fondly at the times we had together, whereas initially all the memories just resulted in pain and hurt and anger at the loss. There is also a sense that it's my responsibility to live my life the best I can somehow to make up for Alex not being able to. I know that sounds nonsensical, but it can be some motivation or inspiration when times are tough. This loss being the first death of a loved one that I had to experience, has shown me how precious life is and how much we cherish time with loved ones, because you can never know when a conversation and time together could be the last. I think this realization was very profound to me because a friend's suicide is very sudden and unexpected, unlike, say, losing a grandparent when the loss is known to be on the horizon. So, Branislav, let's go to you next. I would like to have you maybe speak to how you felt initially, and knowing that it's 7 years later, that's obviously different. Speak to that a little bit from your standpoint of how you felt initially versus now.
Yeah. So initially, like I said earlier, I didn't want to believe it. Brock's statement, I was just hoping it was someone else and he was going to text us all and just be like, hey guys, it's not me. It was someone else from Kirksville. And it took a few days to hit. And when it finally did, it was so surreal that someone my age, someone I was close with, someone that I went through high school with, who restored my love for music and got me to do my favorite thing, was now gone because he was hurting inside. And it was just hard to believe. And there was a few years where a lot of things that I would do would remind me of him. Like, for instance, going to Branson, even for a cheer competition, since I coached cheer, I would think of him because that's where we would go for Harmoniers camp. So I'd be like, oh, me and Alex went to this show together, or we performed on the Branson Showboat Bell and things like that. So I felt like everywhere I was going, there was something reminding me of him. Or in the first couple years, I would feel like I was seeing him around places. So like seeing people who looked like him. And it would take me a minute to be like, that's not Alex. Now, like I said, I have a semicolon tattoo, and partially it's due to Alex. So that way, every time if I'm having a rough day, I just look at it and remind myself it doesn't end here. And I think looking back on high school, if I had hard times, I remember talking to Alex at breakfast and him talking me out of so many things. You don't have to drop that class because of it. At the time, I thought they were really big things, but now looking back, they were pretty minute. But Alex was my go-to guy for a while there. I didn't have a lot of guy friends growing up. So then when Alex and I did become really close in high school, he was my go-to guy for anything. And having choir together, we spent a lot of time together. We had choir, I think, daily between Harmoniers and a cappella. And now anytime someone's hurting, I want to be that person that they can reach out to and feel comfortable talking with. Even if they don't want me to say anything, just tell me how you're feeling just to get it off your chest. Because I know he was that for me. So now I want to live that on in his name and be that for someone else. And like I said earlier, I'll reach out to people I haven't talked to in years and just be like, hey, what's up? How are you? Is everything going okay? Do we want to meet up for lunch? Things like that, because I was really looking forward to meeting up with him over Christmas break when he would come home. and I never got the chance to do that. But I mean, even 7 years later, it's very hard to believe looking at his memorial pamphlet. It's still shocking that's him. I want to say I've wrapped my mind around it, but I don't think I ever will. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. That whole I don't think I'll ever will thing resonates a lot with something that Parker shared in the sibling roundtable. Told you guys he said several things that I hadn't heard him say before. Parker's my youngest, Alex's younger brother. He said, so he talked about Alex being 21 and how out-aging Alex was really hard for Parker. He was supposed to be excited about turning 21, and it was one of his hardest birthdays. 22 was even a little bit rougher because now he's older, and he's 26 now. And Alex is forever 21 from an earth body standpoint. But he said in that episode, Branislav, that Alex will always be his older brother. He said, I'll be 80 years old, and he's always going to be my older brother. He said, I'm bringing him with me. And I thought that was really powerful for me to hear, because I know as a mom, I do that, but you don't assume that other people do that. And so to hear that in essence, that's what, you're doing too, is you're just keeping him with you for the journey. That feels really special, and it's powerful to hear. And I think we all could use a flamboyant angel on our shoulders from time to time. So when you need a pep talk, it's a good person to go to. We can all still resonate with that. So thanks for sharing that. And you talking about choir daily. I think it took a lot of you guys bonded together to survive Mr. Shirley on the daily, right? So,
oh, for sure. We wouldn't have gotten through Shirley without each other.
I mean, what would it be talking about Northtown Choir if we didn't throw a little bit of that in there? So.
And I know when he chose to leave Harmon senior year, it was hard because I was like, I'm not doing it if you're not. And he was like, yes, you are. He was the reason that I stuck through it senior year.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Again, I get it. So, Oakley, would you like to share with us next your thoughts on what it was like initially? And then you're so much newer at this grief, being only not quite 2 years in. And I know that we're knocking on the door of the 2-year anniversary next month. So talk a little bit about that from your standpoint of how has it changed at all for you in the 2 years? How was it initially based on what you've heard the other guys say versus how it feels now?
Initially, I feel like I felt it really physically as well as emotionally, because I show a lot of signs of my emotions physically. So there was like this constant coldness inside of me as soon as my mom told me. I didn't know how to process it, and I just decided to put it off in my head and say it didn't happen. And I didn't go to school the next day. And then when I did go back to school, I heard people talking about it, and it actually physically angered me for some reason, because people were acting like it was just drama in the school or something like that. That's how I felt like they were talking about it, which, reflecting back, they were just telling each other, but I was very angry about it because he had moved away not long before to Manitoba, and I was still in Saskatchewan. It was grade 11, and just hearing people talk about it like it was just something new for them to hear and something new to tell somebody else really made me mad. And that's the only way I can describe it. Was I was just mad for a while, and I just put it off and didn't believe it. Even up until his funeral, I remember telling somebody I didn't think I would even believe it happened while I was at the funeral. And it was a long drive to get there because it was like way northern of Saskatchewan for where I live. So I went with 2 of my friends, and even then I didn't believe it happened. And as I was standing on that stage talking at his funeral, I didn't believe it happened. And there were a lot of moments that I would look for him places, and I would check my phone just to see if he texted me, or I would check to see if it said he was online on anything. I didn't choose to believe it for a very long time. And even now, I feel like I still have problems believing it because I just graduated this year, and that was really difficult for me because I felt like he should have had the chance to graduate too. And although we wouldn't have been able to graduate together, I feel like we still should have been able to talk and bond over that. And that was a really harsh reality for me to feel. I wore a necklace that his mom gave me with his ashes across the stage for commencements because I felt like that was the closest that he'll get. And I was trying to rationalize it a lot in my head that day. But even compared from when it happened to now, I still look for him a lot places. Like when he died, I felt like I saw a lot more very colorful sunsets and stuff like that because we always bonded a lot over the sky and clouds, stuff like that. And I felt like after that, there was a beautiful sunset every single night after for a while. And I all of a sudden saw rainbows everywhere. So I automatically connected it to him and tried to rationalize it as, oh, this is not the end. This will never be the end because I just see him in all these different places. And I feel like that is my very strong coping mechanism, is trying to find ways to see him places. And I even tell myself, oh, even in the afterlife, I'll see him and stuff like that. Even though I'm not a religious person, I always try to rationalize it differently. And that definitely is like my strongest coping mechanism. And then now I feel like I try to talk about his memories a lot and carry him on, because as it's approaching 2 years, I feel like it's been harder this year than it was last year because I was so numb to what had just happened. And when it hit 1 year, I was like, that doesn't feel right at all. It feels like it just happened. And I've been dreading 2 years more than 1 year because first year, you still hear a lot of people talking about it and trying to help you through things. But the second year, it's more lonely and it's more dealing with it on your own and trying to help yourself through things. His mom, Barb, sent me a bunch of books about grief and stuff like that as a way to help. So it's just been a lot of independence in grief and trying to find ways through it. And knowing that it will be 2 years soon, I feel like, I don't know, it's just a lot more lonely. It's not like I'm talking to our childhood friends saying, oh my God, it's almost been a year. It's more so, I just graduated, we're all growing up, seems very rapidly without him, and we're doing our own things. And I still feel fixated on the fact that he's gone because we were so close for so long. And I don't necessarily have as many people to talk about it with. I've made a lot of new friends since then because I did move shortly after he died. And I tried to talk to them about it, but they didn't know him. And I can't talk to them about it all the time because I feel like I bug people when I talk about it a lot. But I need to talk about it a lot sometimes. And I struggle not to talk about it a lot. It's almost his birthday. A week from now it will be his birthday. So I've been talking about it a lot with so many people. And I just feel like people don't care as much when it reaches 2 years, but I still care so much in a way that I can't even describe. So initially versus now, I feel like the only growth I really made was not showing it physically, but I still feel it very heavily emotionally and mentally because I'm slowly getting out of the denial stage. It may have not been as short as other people's, and maybe they have moved on much quicker than me, but I have grown attached to people very easily because of this, and I just attach to concepts and people and things, and getting out of the denial stage has not been easy, and I am just at the edge of it, I feel, and it's been complicated.
Well, this is a really complicated loss, and losing a friend so young is a really impactful thing. And these guys weren't much older than you when they lost their friend. So they've just had longer in the journey. I mean, they were a couple of years beyond you, but it's not like it was decades beyond you. So I see them nodding their head at a lot of what you're saying, and you are still really early. And so give yourself a lot of grace and space. And I'm just really impressed that even at 2 years, you're able to come on and talk about this the way you do. And I'm really proud of you for that. I think that's important in itself to be able to say that you feel like you're moving through things and that you're processing it. I'm really proud of you for that. So, Christian, will you wrap this part up? And then I think we might segue into a different question than what I originally thought next because of some of what you guys have said. This is what happens on the leftover pieces. We don't always go 100% by agenda, y'all. So we're roughly going to go by agenda. So Christian, would you let everybody know? I know you don't have to repeat things you've already said, but initially versus now, like how that has looked for you.
So I with with Oakley and what Brock kind of tapped into of the anger at strangers. I don't think I've heard other people talk about that. Um, because you're lifting such a heavy weight, and it's like people see you lifting a feather when it's the heaviest thing you've ever had to try and pick up and move. And so I went to University of Central Missouri. Nobody knew who Alex was. Like, I had a whole new set of friends over there. And so when it had happened and I had got back to school over that summer, I just vividly remember walking across campus just on a stroll with one of my best friends. I strongly put that in air quotes, a close friend at the time. And I think I just saw something, and something just hit me like a train all of a sudden, and I like broke down on like a campus sidewalk, like in front of a parking, like the entrance to one of the employee parking lots, and like my best friend was just staring at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why are you crying in the middle of campus? Meanwhile, I'm having a mental breakdown because my body started to process it. At the time, I didn't know what was happening. Now I'm old enough to reflect and be like, oh, your body was accepting it, bud. But I just remember that feeling of isolation and anger, not at everyone and everything, but also simultaneously, the same as Brock said, you realize it's not logical that these people didn't know that person at that depth. But right now, I think it's so valid to feel anger, be mad, to want to isolate, because everybody grieves differently. And if we try and copy and paste the solution to grief to every person and everything, it's going to throw some people down the wrong path. And now I allow myself to feel things heavily, even if they aren't pleasant feelings. I flew out to see my grandpa pass away here in December. And literally, I got there 12 hours before he passed away. I said my final goodbye, but I just remember being like, hey, you can't cry right now. Not because you don't deserve to, but because he's in pain right now. And I think it'd make him happy to like see you calm. And so I allowed myself to keep him calm. And then after he had passed, I let myself cry and I let myself be mad at the world. But I'm way more in control of my emotions these days, and that is with therapy, extensive therapy, psychiatrist appointments, being on the right medicines. And that's another point. I was cycling through so many antidepressants in college and then realized I had epilepsy. And then once I got that figured out, I felt way more stable and was able to just be more in my body and more in control of my actions. But with therapy, even my therapist, like when I would talk about Alex, you have to know like they can help you so much, but community, to the people who actually have gone through similar or have known the person themselves, they're the only ones that are going to listen to you. Because for a lot of people, they think down on suicide. And like, I think I used to get it, but then I'm just, yo, my best friend has lung cancer and I don't want him to suffer and whatever. And he chose not to do chemo. So he's just raw dogging it because he had friends that he had seen go through that process. And he was like, that's not the ending I wanted. And I know this isn't the ending Alex wanted, but I'm very careful about who I let into my circle. So like in present 2023 question, like I don't let people talk to me disrespectfully, and I don't like make a scene and tell them off. It's just, hey, the way you talk to me or the way I see you talking to other people is ugly or just not productive. And I just have to remove myself from that situation or remove that person from my life, because I think a lot of the times society views suicide as an individual problem. And I see it as a community issue. And like the community Alex had behind him, I don't think he could feel at the time. And that is just a part of going away to college. But like all the people that showed up at his service and just have had nothing but positive things to say about him. A lot of these times, good people who feel deeply see their mistakes as something much graver in the general public than what everyone else thinks of it. And so when you're that sensitive, like you need community to be like, hey, you're a good guy, right? There's people that are just fully in this world on like consciously trying to make people's lives harder. Alex was not one of those guys. But reframing how I see suicide and like realizing that there was probably a couple guys around Alex that shouldn't have been, like that has made things easier for me to not blame him. And everyone will see it differently, but community is your environment itself is such a big part in the actions that we take and the way that we're able to move around the world. And I have had times where I've put myself in isolation and then I'll go out like to go play pool with people I hadn't seen from high school from 10 years ago after the homecoming game like last week. And we were just chit-chatting like no time had ever passed. And then you feel so just in community that it's like, you wouldn't have this community if you weren't a decent guy. Like people wouldn't want to be around you if like you weren't making the world a better place in some way. And like sometimes making the world better is not like doing ginormous community projects. It's just being there for another person. But like the pull of love that Alex got shown after his passing, that's not something he'll ever be able to see. But in these conversations of us still talking about his memory and just continuing the conversation with him as a part of it, that's how I handle things. Is like what Branislav said, I'll reach out to somebody that I haven't talked to in a year and I'll wish them happy birthday on Facebook, even if they haven't wished me. Like I will look goofy if it means that like somebody got wished a happy birthday when they might not have had that. Like I don't know everyone's story. That's the thing. I used to say really mean things, not on purpose, just as humor. And Alex was the same way. We would call each other dumb sluts every day. Sorry, Melissa.
You don't have to apologize.
It was like, and it was.
I raised him. It's okay.
We would literally burst out laughing every time we did it. But now I'm much more careful with my words and just realizing that, hey, our actions are based on our community and our environment and just making sure that I'm not contributing to a negative environment or negative community. And if I am being negative in an environment or community, I remove myself. And then I will return once I feel, okay, you're not being a jack shit anymore. But that's kind of how I am processing it now these days.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. So I know that we talked about the second talking point that we were going to kind of talk about was how the loss has impacted your life. I feel like we've covered that. I kind of suspected that we probably would at this point, but I also knew that something else would probably materialize in my thought process as I listen to you lovely people talk, and it has. And so this one's really simple. Let's take a simple one for a minute. Do you feel like, I feel like you've kind of all touched on this a little bit, but I'm interested to see what your thoughts are more specifically. Do you feel like Donovan and Alex show up in ways that feel like they're actually signs? And this isn't speaking to whether you're spiritual or religious or not, but most of us that have lost someone feel like if we pay attention that there are signs when they're around, that we can rely on feelings, that they're with us. I just am kind of curious, but do any of you feel like you have or had or regularly receive or see signs from your friend that has passed? And I'm open for somebody to jump in if you want to start. Otherwise, I'll call on one of you.
I'm willing to start,
feel
Melissa.
like I see signs a lot.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Oakley. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I feel like I see signs a lot, specifically in the sky, which is important to me because I feel like we bonded so much over the sky. Whenever I'm really upset or I've been thinking about him a really large amount, I feel like I always see rainbows and I always see very beautiful sunrises and sunsets. I feel like it always shows up when I'm thinking about him. So I definitely feel like I see signs of him.
I love that. Most of my signs from Alex are music. His friends, some of his friends tend to see the sevens because the sevens were the thing with Alex. Everybody kind of has different things. Parker has his own thing. But for me, it tends to be songs and music, and some, because Alex and I were both, this is our month. October's our month. It's Donovan's month too, Oakley. He loved Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Alex and I both like the scary stuff in our family. And so October was a big thing, and we always loved to see scary movies. And he was into the paranormal thing for a while. And I honestly was going somewhere with this story, and now I've lost track of where I was. So we'll just digress and we go on that. But the signs are interesting to me because some people believe in them, some don't. But when you aren't open to them, you also aren't going to receive them, right? I have a dad that died 25 years ago. He was only 48. He was very young. And I never was really open to signs. I didn't have time to grieve. My kids were all little, and I just wasn't open to them, guys. And not until after Alex died, and I needed to know if, like, my dad had Alex, like that was and my dad showed up, and he showed up in the form of me smelling cigarette smoke in multiple places where there was absolutely no way I should have smelled cigarette smoke. But my dad died of lung cancer. He was a smoker. And I remember that after getting it 3 times, and that's become a thing with Alex too, he does something kind of 3 times for me to go, okay, it's you. I remember saying, Dad, and I almost immediately smelled that smoke, and I went, okay, I've waited 20 years, but now Dad's showing up and saying, it's cool, kid, he's here. And I thought, okay. And then I started being more receptive to Alex's signs. So what say you two? Do you receive any signs at all? Do you even ask for them? I don't know if this is your only significant loss. I know you lost your grandfather. I'm very sorry to hear about that, Christian. Sorry for your loss. Do you feel like signs are even a thing? And if they are, do you feel like you've ever seen them? Christian.
I do get, so, ugh. So Alex was the first person that I'd lost in my life. That's the only suicide that I've had to deal with. One of my roommates, my senior year at UCM, passed away from a seizure in his sleep. So that would have been about 2 years after Alex. And then I had another friend who I would go up to Truman for the conducting symposiums to go study conducting with their music professors, even though I was a student at UCM. I'd go up there about once or twice a year and see Alex and Carlin. There was another music major up there who, his name was Kyle, and he was driving in Oregon. He was a middle school band teacher, and he got hit straight on by a Tesla and passed away here last year. I bring these people up because I get really strong auditory signs. It's not always music, but like it is sound of, and sometimes it like literally is like playing in the environment, but other times it's like
you just hear something. I
can't really put words to it, but like I know who it's coming from. Like sometimes I hear things from Alex, sometimes I hear things from Drew, sometimes I hear things from Kyle. But it's always so distinct, almost like a tap on the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I wasn't spiritual till I went and studied abroad in Thailand, and when I came back, that's when over there it's Buddhism, but it's very much about your environment. And I just remember when, like, the first time that like I had an auditory sensation where it was like, oh, this isn't coming from just you, Christian. It's like a chorus between me and that other person. Like they enter my consciousness for like just a second, and then like just give me a little sign, whether it be, hey, you're on the right path, or hey, change direction. But from each person that I've lost, there's like a distinct feel to it when the sign is coming from that whichever person. But in those moments, I just pause, breathe. If it's a positive feeling, bathe in it. And if it's a negative feeling, just be like, okay, what's wrong that I'm doing here? But I try and listen as best as physically, humanly, spiritually possible. But it's comforting. It's just, I think, is the best way I can put it. And as Melissa said, once the energy's there, it's just dissipated in other ways. And so I'm comforted by that little tap on the shoulder.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because what it is, if you want to put a term to it that is going to sound woo, but it's a clairaudience that you're just, we all have
I wasn't going to say it, but yes,
we all have
exactly
clear senses. We all have clear senses, and we all have the ability to tune into them more if we want to practice that. So things are called practices. We practice many things throughout our whole life, and you just have the ability to be, and it shouldn't surprise you given what you do. That's where you're more tuned in.
Literally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that doesn't surprise me at all. But if most of us, once we have a profound loss and we feel signs or see signs or hear signs or whatever, or signs come to us, we start realizing that connection's there. And if we allow ourselves, we can realize that, one, we can invite that in more, but two, we've been having that on some level our whole life. A lot of people call it their subconscious. They'll call it the little devil and angel on their shoulder. Yeah, whatever. Think about, you'll be driving somewhere and you almost feel like you hear somebody say, slow down, or you hear there's experiences in our life where we feel like we have that sixth sense. That sixth sense is probably somebody that's passed on, whether that's your grandmother, your aunt, your friend. They're watching out for us. You can call them whatever you want, but they are our spirit guides, our angel guides, whatever. And the more tuned into that we are, I just think it enriches our life, right? And it also allows them to keep us with them. So Branislav, what do you say to this?
I definitely do have signs. When we were freshmen in high school, I tragically lost my godbrother, and Alex helped me deal with that. Now looking back, he was one of the people that let me talk about it. Christian, I don't know if you remember, we had a really big lockdown freshman year. I was in history class. I remember it vividly. They locked the school down for 3 hours because my cousin was murdered. I don't know if you remember the story, Melissa, but it was a triple murder at the Red Roof Inn by Worlds of Fun.
I do.
And my godbrother was one of the individuals, and they thought there was a suspicious car going around the school several times, and there was suspicion that it was kind of tied with the murders. So I just remember getting a lot of texts that day. But up until Alex died, I would see things like, if I was going through something or I really miss my cousin, I'm like, hey, just can you please give me a sign that I'm going to be okay, that you're there, you're watching me. And I remember a very stormy day just turned sunny after I asked that. Probably an hour after I asked that, it just became very bright, very sunny, humid. It felt warm. And then after Alex died, I went to Disney World down in Florida for the very first time back in 2019. And I went to Epcot, and at Epcot, they have the butterfly gardens.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the butterfly garden, and I remember this butterfly just kept coming around me. And my friend was like, here, put some apples. It sounds weird. Put some applesauce on your finger and see if it'll land on you. Well, I put the applesauce on my finger. The butterfly was around it a little bit more, and then it kept coming back to my shoulder. And we were just walking around, and I would keep shooing this butterfly off of me, but it would just keep coming back to either shoulder. And finally I was like, Alex, I'm fine. And my friend was like, who's Alex? And I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, you just said, Alex, I'm fine. And I was like, oh. I just felt like that was him, because at that time I was dealing with some health issues. When I was in the hospital for a week prior to that trip, and I essentially looked at my doctors and I was like, I'm going to Florida. And so being in that state, I was very scared. I didn't know, we didn't really have answers as to what was happening with me, and it all ended up being okay at the end, thankfully. But I just remember we were in that butterfly garden for maybe 30 minutes and this butterfly wouldn't leave me alone. And when my friend was like, "You just said, Alex, I'm fine," I let the butterfly just hang out. When he would fly away and then come straight back. When even if I was to if I moved my shoulder, like I could feel the butterfly gripping a little harder. And it wasn't until we were walking out of the butterfly garden. We were walking out. I was like, "Thanks for visiting, Alex," kind of shoot it off again. And he flew away and flew right back onto me right before we exited again. And I was like, "I'll be okay." And the butterfly finally left me. And it was kind of just like warm and sincere. I know how much he loved Disney. So like the fact that I was at Disney and that I unconsciously was like, "I'm fine, Alex," out loud.
And your friend's like, "You're just talking to that butterfly, right?"
I know. She was like, "Who's Alex?"
You just named a butterfly.
Yeah. And then another time I saw a sign. So my father, he actually lost his dad to suicide when he was 5 years old. So I never got the chance to meet my grandfather, but I heard amazing stories from my grandma and just other family members. And during COVID, I was fortunate enough to get to go back to Serbia for the first time and meet my family. And when I did, I got to visit my grandfather's grave. And I remember walking up and just bawling. And my uncle, my dad's brother, was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I miss him." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "I miss him." And it was a gloomy day that day. And I was just standing at the end of his gravesite. And his gravesite, it's him and his mom are combined. So the headstone is kind of one. And the sun illuminated just my grandfather's. And I instantly stopped crying. So I felt like that was a sign that my grandpa was like, "Thanks for visiting." We moved to the States when I was 2 years old. So it's been 25 years in November. So my dad grew up his whole life not having a father figure because my grandma never remarried. She was super young. I want to say she was 23 when she widowed. Super young. And my dad hasn't gone back to Serbia since we've been here. So I feel like it was my grandfather talking to me like, "Hey, thanks for coming to see me on behalf of you and your dad. Thanks for meeting me." Like I felt like I knew him.
Yeah.
It was just super comforting. But those are like three of the biggest memories that I remember. Or not memories, but like
Signs. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Thanks for sharing, guys. I'm going to read, even though Brock didn't speak to the signs piece, I am going to read because he hasn't obviously been here to contribute as much. So I feel like we will be benefited by hearing what he has to say on how the loss impacted his life. He said, "The loss of my friend Alex to suicide opened my eyes to a world I didn't know existed. Up until that point, depression and mental health were not things on my radar. I had not experienced anything like depression myself, and I had not experienced anyone sharing feelings like that with me. To me, suicide was almost fictional, something that couldn't possibly happen to me or anyone I knew. The loss of my friend showed me that it is something that can happen to anyone at any time, and showed me how important suicide prevention resources are. That you may never know it, but anyone could be experiencing crisis at any time. That understanding has resulted in a lot more empathy from myself towards everyone around me. You never know what people are going through, so cut them a little more slack and give them some more grace." So before we finish up, I do want to speak to the third point that I had you guys kind of think about and prepare for, which is I left this one for last on purpose, but how, as a friend, not a sibling, not part of the family, that whole thing, how do you feel like your grief was acknowledged or treated by others? And I'm going to start with reading Brock's because I think it will give you guys something to just add to. Brock says, "Although the best efforts of folks around me, I feel like they can almost never do enough or acknowledge the grief of friends. Personally, I was absolutely miserable with grief and then made myself feel even worse because in some twisted way, I didn't think I deserved to feel so bad when the friend I lost had parents and siblings who in my mind deserved to feel much worse than I did. I then made myself feel guilty about that. Others never saw this in me, but in my mind, they were saying, "Who do you think you are being so sad? You aren't even related to him." I know logically that this is not what others thought, but for some reason at the time, that notion was in my head. I feel like my grief was generally acknowledged by most people in my life. I think folks generally don't want to bring up something so bad, so they just steer completely clear of the topic. My parents and others tried to comfort me, but this really only amounted to ask, "Are you okay?" or "How are you doing?" Obviously, I was not doing well, so I didn't see much point in answering the question with much more than "I'm fine." The exception is people who were really close to that person we lost. It felt, and it still feels, as though we all understand to some extent the loss and pain that each other have experienced. This allows for more open and honest, trusting dialogue that I found and continue to find to be much more productive in the healing process. Also, talking with others who have experienced the loss of Alex has offered me validation in processing the feelings and emotions that I was experiencing. So, Christian, what do you say to this piece as far as being a friend? Did you heap any of this on yourself? Did you feel any of it was heaped on you by others? And this is really important, I think, for other people to hear. This is why we're doing this, because I don't want friends to feel forgotten. I feel like, and then I want you guys to speak to this because you may tell me I'm wrong.
So I have 3 older brothers. Most people think I'm an only child for good reason.
Are they a lot older than you are? Is that why?
One is 3 years older. So by the time I'll give you this. I have a brother that's 6, 7 years older than me. He went to prison when I was in middle school. And then the next sibling closest to me is 3 years older than me. He went to juvie his sophomore year at Northtown and just stayed there and never came back. So like I went from having a large family in up till middle school, and then it was just me and my parents. And my brothers weren't good role models, obviously. So I knew I couldn't look up to them as a role model figure. And so I had to look in the only places I had, which was school. And so I made a ton of friends at Northgate, at Northtown, and just treated them like brothers. I literally borrowed Galen's last name for the longest time, and my last name on Facebook is still parentheses Gist. And I'm very close with Shannon too, and saw them here a few weeks ago. But and romantic relationships have never been have never been important to me because my platonic friendships have always been so deep and rich. And like allowing platonic friends to get very close to me emotionally has allowed me a more fulfilling life. And I have connections in places most people don't, because a lot of people, when they go into a romantic relationship, kind of seclude themselves. But like, I just find so much community and friendship, and like the people from Northtown that all know Alex, like they're the ones that have never made me feel bad about grieving. And like even my parents never got to meet Alex. He'd been to my house, but like when I told my parents that like, hey, I lost a friend, like they didn't understand the depth of it, but understood that I was upset. So they didn't really know how to like help, but my friends did. And I feel like in high school, like people tell you, hey, this is just 4 years and you're all going to go your separate ways and forget about this. But that wasn't the case with my Northtown friends. There's just this kind of long distance care that we have for each other. And since Alex's passing, I think that's only strengthened that community of that 2014 class that left Northtown, because even the people that did know Alex personally, I think it's still affected them. Like Branislav said, you think it's fiction until it's not. And I think that it just brought an awareness to a lot of the friendships in my life that I was just like, no, this is important, because I know what just being there can do for a person. Sorry if I got a little sidetracked there.
No, I don't. I think that was all important and relevant, because what you're saying is you're talking about the depth of importance that friends are, which speaks to exactly what I asked you to speak to, which is how was this acknowledged or treated by others, but more importantly, how, the impact that this has had on your life. I think a lot of people want to go, oh, they don't even think about the friends or something. I've thought a lot about the friends over the years, because I think there's this impression that it's made this permanent impression on me, on Parker, on Lauren, on whatever. But I think a lot of people just assume friends grieve and move on. That's it. Like, you never think about your friend anymore. And I just don't think that's true. I mean, not that I expect it to be a daily thought with somebody 7 years later, but I was you guys' age once, and I'm motioning to a picture on the wall, like that makes any sense to anybody listening. But I realized the depth of life and connection that Alex made in 21 years. I had the good pleasure of being his mom. And even when he was a little boy, and this isn't to disparage my other two children at all, they have beautiful, amazing qualities as well. But as a little boy, I remember saying he had one of the best hearts of anyone I knew. And I'm just lucky enough to be his mom. Well, that carried on throughout his life. I mean, and he gave to people very richly. And so for me to even imagine that the people that loved him and that he loved so deeply were not affected on some level forever, that in some ways it altered courses of lives, it made differences in how you guys thought about things, it brought about philanthropic adventure, it brought about things in your life that had Alex lived would have looked different, right? And so I feel like you spoke to that, even though you feel like I'm well versed at going down rabbit holes, so you're in good company. But do you feel like that's the point that you were kind of trying to make, is that it did impact you greatly, and that you were lucky enough to have a community around you of other friends that helped acknowledge that as significant and didn't make it feel insignificant?
Like, I just never, because at a point, like, it was a daily thought for I think 2 years, and then with a little bit more distance, it was every week. And then now I think it's like about once or twice a month where like I'll feel it. But like hearing Brock, hearing Branislav, like knowing that it's not like we all still feel these ripples from that shockwave. Like, I don't think we would have these emotions 7 years out if we didn't lose a great fucking guy. And like, I am so grateful to have had Alex as a role model. Is think what I'm trying to say is like, I looked up to that dude. I still do, because IB, Branislav knows. Like, I did 2 years of pre-IB and then was just like, oh, you're a music person, switch to something else. And then filled my schedule with literally all music classes. But like, Alex tried so hard and did difficult things, no matter how like challenging it was, and he would put himself out there. And I would be like, Christian, like, if Alex can be that flamboyant, why can't you? If Alex can do all these tough things, like, we do these tough things together. But like, I still carry on that support that he gives me. Like, and like I said, like, it just, when I felt that loss, it made me realize how important being a peer was. And I just try and repay that. And Branislav has the same sentiment of trying to repay the kindness and open-heartedness that Alex had, because it's not gone. It's within me. It's within Branislav. It's within you, that we try to make things a little better for somebody we might not know.
Yeah.
And that's something I don't think I would have started doing if I didn't have something that cut that deep.
Right. Thanks for sharing that. Oakley, again, you're still so new in this journey and you're young, just having graduated high school and listening to these guys is probably a little insight for what your next handful of years are going to look like as you carry this with you. But as you have experienced grief as a friend, and I know that you have two sides. You, one, didn't have the benefit of being near him physically when he died, but he hadn't lived there very long. His friends that he had grown up with were with you. So you did have your community of friends that also knew Donovan that you grieved with. Do you feel like as a friend, your grief was acknowledged, and how do you feel like it was treated by others?
A few days after Donovan died, my mom had told my school, just so my teachers were aware if I acted weird or anything. And I was called to my counselor's office, and she gave me this portfolio of how to deal with grief and told me she'd be checking on me all the time because she understands how big of a deal that is. And that was the last time I heard from her, was that day. And I feel like that really would have helped me if she checked in on me a lot, because my grief made me do a little bit of irrational things. Like I ended up not really putting any effort towards resolving a problem in a friendship with a person that was one of my best friends for years. I ended up just ending it because I wanted to isolate myself. I ended up having an entire 180 switch in my personality. I used to be perfectionist and very like grade focused, and then I became a really scattered person, and grades necessarily I didn't focus on as much for a while. And I feel like I would have really benefited from talking to the counselor for it. And I still had family to talk to about it, but they didn't necessarily understand the depths of it at some points, but they tried their best, and I really appreciate them for that. And even some friends, they really helped me a lot. And I got to talk to our friends that we all knew Donovan, so we all talked together about it and tried to work through grief together. And then some people at school that didn't know him his entire life pretty much, they weren't as sympathetic, and I couldn't really confide in them for that. And I even at one point got asked, like, how are you still not over it? And I was like, well, I guess I am just a very slow griever. That kind of hurt when I was asked that. I guess I just take things very slowly, but I do have people I can talk to about it whenever I need to. Like my mom coincidentally had lost one of her best friends just like a year prior, so I got to talk to her about it. And I have a friend that is my age. She also, a few months prior, lost her best friend, so we would always talk to each other about it. And my friends are really aware of what upsets me. I was at a Mamma Mia musical the day that he died, so whenever I hear Dancing Queen by ABBA, I like break down and cry. It's a really fun party trick. But I always have people that are really
crying
aware
to
of
ABBA.
that.
Yeah, it's a fun party trick.
Yeah.
And people are like, what's with her?
Yeah. So people are really aware of that when they know me, and like my family is too. And now more so, I don't get to talk about it with people as often. Like I said, I moved a few months after he died, and nobody had known what happened. So nobody could really help me through my grief then. Yeah. And I had to tell people that it happened, and then coincidentally somebody had found his obituary because my name was in it, and they Googled my name, and that was kind of hard because that's not the way to find out about things. And then I felt then a lot of my friends helped me through it, but as time goes on, I feel like I'm dealing with things a lot on my own, and I'm trying to work through that. But overall, I would say there are definitely the people in my life I can talk to for it. My friends who have also lost people, friends that knew Donovan, I talked to them about it. But I feel like external adults outside of family really failed me when they said they'd help. So felt kind of pushed aside in that aspect. But even Donovan's mom. She helped me a lot through things. She's an amazing person, and I'm so thankful for her. She always checked in on me, and I check in on her. So I have her, and I'm very thankful for her.
Yeah. Christian wanted to add something, I think.
When I first would tell people about what had happened, I remember this sense of non-presence-ness of myself, where like a friend would be trying to help me, but like my brain was just so laser focused on the trauma, and that like I'd start feeling guilty of, hey, there's a person right here next to you. Why aren't you like giving them your full attention? Why are you out of it right now? Mm-hmm. But like after like therapy and like realizing that, same with Oakley, like my body sometimes just has an inert reaction where like I'll stiffen up and just like kind of shut down. I've just kind of started feeling less guilty about it here in like the past 2 years, like when that happens, and being like, hey, your body like physically stores trauma, and sometimes it just gets released. But I try and just be conscious of, hey, this person might not know the entire situation, but they're with you right now. Acknowledge that they're like, even if their words aren't helpful, they're with you right now. So that has been something that's been helpful for me in acknowledging in myself, is that sometimes people's words are never going to freaking help you process things, but their presence, if they're there, if they're listening to you talk about this person that's passed, it's beautiful in its own different sense of just, they're trying. They're not trained psychologists or therapists, but these people are trying to like be with you. But that's something that took me a long time to snap out of, I think is the right word.
Yeah. And Oakley, I want to say something to you because, and I'm sure these gentlemen are going to echo, but you give yourself permission to grieve for the rest of your life. That doesn't mean it's not going to change or look different, but you're never going to stop caring about Donovan. So now you're going to get older. It's going to become much easier to embrace the memories and the impact that he had on your life and all the great things. It's not to say it's going to feel the same as it does now, but you don't have to move through grief and then go, now I'm done. And I just want to give you permission to understand that you can learn to grieve in a healthy way. Not to say you're not grieving healthy, because I think you're doing a wonderful, amazing job. But I've heard you several times allude to, I'm not done grieving yet. You don't have to ever be done, because grief is just love expressed for somebody that's gone. So as long as you love somebody and they're not here, you're going to have some form of grief, even if it doesn't impact you every day or every minute of your life, because it will change as you get older. But you're still going to be able to say, I'm carrying this. And there will be some point that the memories will just be fond and it won't be as hard to remember. But you don't have to hurry up and get over it, is what I guess I want to make sure I'm giving you permission to remember, that grief is a lifelong process on some level, and that it's okay to still be grieving. Because you can.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Branislav, what do you have to say to this before we wrap up?
I think when it first happened, I told my family, and my mom's, oh, I'm sorry. But my mom remembers Alex because I would come home all the time and talk about him. She asked me today before we got on the podcast, she was like, that's the one from Harmon who wore the wrong pants because his other pants were too tight, right? So I don't know if you remember that concert.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yep. But I mean, so obviously he had such a big enough soul, and my mom saw how much he impacted me that she remembers even memories without ever meeting him. But I do remember going to his memorial service and seeing people who I hadn't seen since high school, or that was like one of the, not the first time I met Nicolette, but one of the first few times I did. And we were all there for the same reason. So it felt like we never skipped a beat, but we were all upset to be together for the reason we were there. We should have been gathering for his wedding or not his funeral. And for a while after that, I felt alone, just I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone, kind of like the both of them had said. You go different ways. Going off to college, we're doing things, we're busy in our own ways. Not to say I couldn't reach out to someone and talk about it, but I know they're dealing with their own stuff too. So I felt like I was bothering if I did. And then about 2 years ago, I met one of my best friends now, and randomly it was brought up mental health and suicide, and she told me she lost her best friend and boyfriend at the time to suicide. And that was something we bonded over. And to this day, I can call her and be like, hey, I'm struggling. I'm having a bad day. And I just essentially don't want to be here. And we just talk about it. And she just keeps telling me, she's think about your friend. He felt like he didn't have someone, but you do have someone to reach out to. Be thankful for that. Or when I do see my semicolon tattoo, I think of Alex. I'm like, okay, I can do this. But like Christian said, just seeing our class 2014 from Northtown, I feel like I could see Christian tomorrow at a restaurant or a bar, and we would talk like we just saw each other yesterday. It was kind of warming to see a familiar face on here. And there were several times where I would reach out to you because I knew I could go to you and you would listen to me, or you would help me get through the feelings or whatever I was going through. So that was always good to have you there. And like I've said, I just want to be able to be that person for someone. That's kind of like how I want to live Alex through my life, is be supportive, be there for people. Even if you don't say anything, there's been times where I've just cried on my friend's shoulder, and I don't want you to say anything. Just listen to me cry and listen to the words come out of my mouth. My brother recently went through a really dark spot in his life, and I remember I was like, I don't know what I need to do. And then something dawned on me. I was like, just listen to him. Just be there for him. And I told him, I was like, hey, come to my room. And he came in here, and he was just screaming at the top of his lungs, saying things I would never want to hear my brother say. And yes, inside I was shaking because I was scared that I was about to lose my brother. But all I could do in the instance was just let it out. And he just kept saying, I'm a bad dad, or I'm this, I'm that. When all I could say is, no, you're not, or I would just hug him tighter. So I feel like I could see Nicolette tomorrow and we could talk about memories with Alex and laugh about them now, where a couple years after we would be crying through them. But now looking back, he wants us to be happy. He wants us to think about the memories and be happy that we've had them with him. He doesn't want us to cry over them. And I think, I don't know. So that's.
Yeah. Ugh. Guys, I feel like this is something we could do for a long time, but I want to wrap up and see if there's anything you guys want to share as your kind of final words, thinking about the different people that might be listening and realizing that some of them are probably friends that are even earlier than Oakley is in their loss, and just trying to find their way. They may have Googled and come across this episode and are trying to figure out what to do. What would you say to someone else that's struggling with the loss of a friend to suicide? Feel free to jump in, whoever wants to start.
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
You're never alone. There's someone next to you, not far from you, that has dealt with it. Be open to talking about it. Share your feelings, share your thoughts, whether it could be someone you're close with or just someone you know that has gone through it. Talk about it. That's the best way to get through something like this. Anytime mental health is brought up, I bring up Alex. I bring up my journey with mental health. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to feel. It's okay to have emotions. So just let that all out, because you don't want to bottle all that up and then just explode at once, because that's not always a good thing. Just as you're feeling, let it out. Even if you're talking, sometimes I catch myself going outside and just expressing my feelings. No one needs to be around, but just saying it out loud also helps. And there are multiple support groups out there, Facebook groups. Join those, because there's people that have gone through a loss that know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
That can resonate with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Oakley, what are your thoughts on this? Any final thoughts for especially other young friends? Unfortunately, we lose a lot of people very young, even in high school, like you guys lost Donovan. And what would you like to say to somebody else that's listening?
Just reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, because even though, like, for me personally, I didn't like reaching out overly because I felt like other people didn't need the burden of what I was going to say, but I wish I did reach out more because it's completely okay to. And there are people that will listen, and there are resources to help. It's okay to reach out, and you don't have to blame yourself for everything. That was another thing I really struggled with. And there are so many people that understand where you're coming from, and there will always be somebody to listen. I really wish that I understood that more, and I hope other people can understand that more too, because those are moments that you really feel very alone, and you gotta realize that is how your friend who is now gone felt as well, and they didn't feel like they could reach out, and you gotta realize that it's okay to. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I feel on that.
Thank you. You're a very wise young woman.
Thank you.
Christian.
With mental health, it's not a broken bone. Healing when it comes to death and loss at this level, I think nothing just magically snaps back together and you are instantly stronger and better. Like, when you're recovering and healing from something like this, healing comes in waves. You will feel better one day, and sometimes you'll take a step back, and then you'll move 2 steps forward, 1 step back, then 3 steps forward, then 1 step back. But that little bit of progress, that little bit of healing, that little bit of, oh, I didn't feel as bad as I did last week, recognizing that sometimes getting back to you is never going to happen because you've gone through something profound, and acknowledging the depth of the loss that you had is what's going to help you through it, because that's the only way forward is through this pain, unfortunately, if you truly want to be in a place of openness and healing. But just knowing that it's not just one day you're back to how you were, because you're a different person, because they changed you, because they were a part of your life. And I think that is beautiful. And the second thing I would have to say is, as a society, talking about deaths that are natural and being more comfortable about just sharing and holding space, more importantly, for people to talk about the loss of, whether it be a friend, a parent, a grandparent, a cousin. Like, it doesn't have to be taboo, because it's the most natural thing in the goddamn world. Same as birth. That is the 2 things you're guaranteed: to come into this world and to come out. And it's weird that we only talk about the way in.
Right.
But acknowledging that life is fucking beautiful. And that's something that I've come to see, is that there's magic in the world around me. And sometimes that depression or that anxiety can put a curtain over that magic, and just being able to hold space for people and not making people feel taboo when they talk about these deep experiences will help people hold space for you in your future and in your present, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And sorry, one last point is that seeing your journey, Melissa, from the perspective of a parent, like Kyle, my friend that also went to Truman, who passed away in the car accident. I don't know what his mom is going through, but it makes me realize life doesn't. I could get in a car accident tomorrow, and I want my mom to know who I am. And the sense of, in Mexican culture, things are very conservative, but I've grown to be more open with my mother, because if anything were to happen to her or anything to happen to me, I want us to know the extent of each other's humanhood. But like, having a more loving relationship with my parents and just trying to be a better son, because it's sometimes hard to see how much a parent or a guardian cares about you, and realizing how much sacrifice that parents make for their kids is just another perspective that Melissa has given me to be not just a better friend, but like a better son. And my mom doesn't probably understand where it comes from, but there's been a very big switch in how I treat her and how I let her know what's going on in my life. But that's something that I've learned from Melissa, is just how deeply parents care, and like how profound we are a gift to our parents.
Now I got to find my voice. Yeah, the depth of how we feel for our kids is not explainable. So your mom, I'm sure she does realize what a gift she has. So thank you. I'm gonna read. Brock has a really short paragraph here that I think will be a good way for us to end. So I'm going to finish by reading Brock's answer to this. Anything else that you want to share with a grieving friend that might be listening? Brock says, "You have every right to feel whatever you're feeling. There is no way you should feel when experiencing such a loss. Do not beat yourself up or be hard on yourself. Spend time with others who knew your friend. That community will help you get through. It will be extremely painful, but there is some kind of healing in letting yourself feel that pain or anger or whatever you may feel at the time. It has been over 6 years since I lost my friend, and I still choke back tears just typing these answers out. Don't set any timelines or expectations for yourself regarding the healing process. I don't think a person ever fully heals from losing a friend to suicide." Guys, this has been a gift. It's a gift none of us wish we had to have, but it's been a gift to be able to have this conversation with you. And I'm so, so very thankful. And I appreciate this so, so very much. So
Thank you for putting this together, Melissa. We wouldn't be here without you doing what you do, writing these books, doing these podcasts. So thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Oakley. And
Yes, and thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. You're all just amazing. And we will talk soon. And thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Grievers, it is my hope that from today you will take that which serves you and simply leave the rest. I would love to connect with you, and the best way to do that is to start out on my website, where the first thing you'll find is a video recorded message from me. And then from there, you can find everything I offer: the online Zoom support groups, the books I've written, ways to connect for the podcast, and an entire resource library assembled to help all suicide loss grievers find the resources that they need to help them along their healing journey. Please go to theleftoverpieces.com. From there, I hope that we can connect, and I hope that you too can discover that we truly are better together. If anything that you've heard in today's episode resonates with you, I would ask that you please subscribe to get notified every week of my new episodes. And then take a moment to rate and review me on Apple Podcasts so that more grievers like us can find this podcast and this community. It is from my own experience of finding myself sitting amid the leftover pieces of my own shattered heart that I can tell you that while it seems impossible in the early days, it is possible to put those pieces back together and be okay again. And every week, we'll be right here providing more comfort, hope, and community. So until next week, I'll sign off today with some words from one of my Alex's favorites, Peter Pan. Never say goodbye, because goodbye means going away, and going away means forgetting. Grievers, no one here's forgetting. Talk soon.